I'm back with a listener question and a special guest to answer it. Join me with my 13-year-old,
Ellie,
as we address late readers.
Mama says namaste.
Mama says namaste.
Making a family can be easy and fun.
Oh yeah, but raising a family can be a whole different story.
From spouses to kids to the crazy daily grind, life often directs us away from connection and more into reactive chaos.
If you're tired of that cycle and are seeking something beyond the picket fence blues, this is the show for you.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nathan.
And we're here to take you from chaos to clarity by bringing awareness and intention into your home, not waiting for one day, and highlighting how
the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us.
Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.
So we've been playing with some ideas on maybe switching up some things with the podcast, and I've always dreamed of having more of like a question and answer type of podcast where we're answering questions, and so we were kind of brewing on ideas for that. And then as we were walking and talking as a family, my 13-year-old piped up on a great topic. So first off, hi Ellie.
hi.
I'm glad you're on here with me. It's not very often I have another kiddo outside of Juliet be on, but this is a great topic for you to talk about with me, right?
Yep.
So, so this is something that I've gotten as a question numerous times, and that is, how do I help my child learn to read or get excited about reading? I guess even more than learn to read, it's get excited about reading. And there is a fear with parents on, my child's never going to read. And I was completely there. Ellie, how old were you when reading really took off for you?
I was almost 10.
Almost 10 years old. What happened before then? How come there was no draw before that?
I never needed to read. Clara always read everything for me, so there wasn't any need to read at all.
Oh, okay. So having an older sibling that read kind of took that desire, that push out of you?
Yeah, until you guys started telling me that I need to start reading. You're already 10.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because, I mean, at that point, yeah, we were looking at going from the standard traditional school models, having kids that are 5 to 7 years old learning how to read, and here you were 10 years old and still not reading.
Yeah, it took me going to a bookstore and finding a book that I really enjoyed, and then after that I was off.
Yeah, so that's what we wanted to talk about, is the fact that there are a few key things to kind of make this happen. And what I felt, or what I recognized, is that as I was trying to get our kids to learn how to read, I'd come up with tons of ideas and all this stuff, and the drive and the motivation was not there. And that was really hard for me to take as a mom who read when I was very young and was very advanced with my reading at a young age. And I was a huge bookworm. And so to have 3 kids, really, all 3 who did not read early, was very hard for me. And I did question that they would struggle with reading. And so this is, there's so many different elements of reading. And I do not discount the need with some children to have outside assistance and support. I don't just believe that unschooling means that your kids just have to figure it all out on their own, and that it's a free for all, that we're not there to help them. And so, when Clara was showing signs of dyslexia and writing everything backwards and really struggling with that, I got a tutor to help. Somebody outside of what I was seeing that could help in a way that helped her to grasp her letters a little bit better. So I am not discounting finding support for your kids when they are struggling. And I recognize that support is best used when your child has a desire as well. And that's what I wanted to talk about with Ellie here. So when you were younger, you weren't too interested in reading. And so, what happened? What was the lack of desire before, and then what shifted for you? And I know you've got some points that we want to address there. So let's just start first by what shifted for you?
Well, first it was before I really got into reading. I had so many fun things I wanted to do, and I just wanted to go playing, and sitting still was difficult for me at the time because I was always moving around and I wanted to be running around outside, not sitting still staring at a book.
And that's something that, again, me being a bookworm, it was hard for me to see, but my goodness, I could also look at my, bundle of energy in you as a young kiddo, and it was very hard for you to sit still. Yeah, that was not your desire. And you just were curious about everything, so you were off exploring and wanting to play. Your biggest fascination was the people interaction, which you don't really get people interaction with reading as much. All right, so then what shifted?
You came to me with a book series that your grandparents gave to you when you were 10. And I started reading that because it was about our family history and the history of the Amish people. And it was really, really fun. And I started reading that series, and that kind of brought me into the reading world.
Uh-huh. All right. So first off, just addressing the fact that, yes, even at a late age, they can pick up reading. And it does not, it doesn't mean that they're starting just with a board book. You didn't first pick up a board book to read either. While we have always stressed having access to books and having a lot of books around, just sitting down and getting lost in a book wasn't your interest until closer to 10. And then when that happened, you got sucked in and saw a different side of it. But you didn't start with a board book. You went straight to books that were actually at your level or higher, and you started reading those. So it's not that we didn't have any foundations going. And I think that is something that I want to stress, is that while we had late readers, this wasn't ignoring letters until this point. From the moment that our kids were aware of looking outside of, what they were doing and seeing letters, I was reading letters to them. And we have narrated and read out loud and read stories out loud ever since they were young. And I do think that's a really critical part. So exposure is great. And exposure doesn't necessarily equal desire for a kid. And that was our struggle, was that I could expose, but when it was forced, because I had a kiddo that wanted, that was looking out the door at her friends playing or anything else that had a desire to do something different, I felt I was forcing. It was more drudgery, and I wanted reading to be something that was as joyful and joy-filled as what it is for me. So I didn't push. We opened the door, but we didn't push. So let's go through our 3 things that are helpful to bring an interest and a desire behind reading.
The first one would be let them pick out a book they want to read. Because if they don't have a book that they want to read and you pick out a book for them, then it's not going to be fun. And I know for me, I wanted something fun. So me being able to pick out a book, or me knowing that my mother really enjoyed the book that I was reading, made it more fun for me.
Yeah, I think part of it was the way I presented the Ellie series book, because the book series that she first started on, it actually was a book series that my grandfather, who was raised Amish, my grandfather gave me the book series, and he gave it to me when I was when I was 10 years old. That was the deal. And so I had found this book series, and I opened up the front cover, and I saw that it was my grandfather's handwriting, and it said 1991. And so I was excited about it, and I showed it to Ellie, and I was like, this was my favorite series. I got really sucked into it. I thought I wanted to be Amish and all this stuff because I read this book series, and I did it when I was 10 years old. Maybe you'd be interested. And that kind of opened the door for you to I'm trying to remember. I think we even read the first book out loud, and then you took it from there.
We read the first book out loud before with the whole family, and then you gave it to me so I could read it myself. And then
There
I
you
read
go.
it myself because that way it was easier because then I knew some of the big words because you had already read it out loud.
Oh, well, right there. That's another little hidden tip there, is that sometimes I think we'll read a book out loud and then we throw that out as, well, that book's already been read. But think about kids and how often they like to do things on repeat. So you having a little bit of confidence of already knowing a little bit of the story helped you to then read it through on your own.
Yep.
Great little hidden tip there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so finding a book they're excited about. And on this, a great way to do this is to go hang out at the library and see what books pique their interest and let them grab a few and play around with kind of digging into books. And I would encourage you to persevere a bit, that you come up with a game plan. If a child does decide they want to read a book, that they commit to reading through to a certain part of the book or something like that, because sometimes it can be a little bit for you to get, wrapped up into a chapter, and sometimes it can. The front cover looks fun, and then the inside of the book isn't. And so, in order to really give a taste to a book, we encourage no thank you bites, like we do in everything in life. So, what's a no thank you bite, Ellie?
A no thank you bite started when I was 2, and my mom made a bread. What was the bread?
It was pancake or French toast with bananas. Banana French toast.
And it looked horrible. Disgusting. It looked really bad, but it tasted good. I was 2 and was not going to eat it. And she kept saying, you have to take a bite. Take a no thank you bite. Just try it. Take a no thank you bite. And so I did, and it was actually really good. And so that kind of showed us that the no thank you bites are, even if it doesn't look good, it could still taste really good. So just always trying something, because you don't know you don't like it until you taste it.
That's right. And so we kind of use that philosophy with food, and then we took that into the rest of our life. And so for books, it's, don't just judge a book by its cover. Sometimes you got to read it a little bit. And I know that I recognize that issue with you, because you were real quick to say, no. And then I realized, oh, you didn't read the backs of any of those books. You didn't actually read what the story was about. You were just looking at a front picture. And because the picture didn't draw you in the right way, you were done with the whole book. And so when we do say, hey, let's try to read a book, we're saying let's really try to read the book. Let's give it a full chance. Let's really get to know the book before we make a decision on whether or not we're going to like it. We can't walk into the scenario saying, I hate this book, because you've already written the story. It doesn't matter what the book is going to be like. You've already got that attitude about it. Okay, so what's another thing that has helped you with your reading? So number 1 is just finding a book that you love and that is sucking you in. So something where you really do want to hear the story. Number 2?
And then once you found that book, enforcing the reading 1 hour every single day so that they get practice with sounding it out and then reading it out loud. Because then that helps them with their reading and they're not just staring at the book. Because that's what I would do to cheat the system, is I would just stare at the book and move my eyes so it looked like I was reading. So what my dad had me do was I had to read out loud, which I did not like at first, but it has ended up helping me a lot, because when you read in your head, you can sometimes skip over the big words because you don't know them and you just want to get on with the story. But when you're reading out loud, you can't skip over the big words. And so it helps you learn new words that you didn't know. Because the books that I like reading are about like the past. Like the book that I'm reading right now is about the Great Depression. And so there are words in there that we don't use anymore, and they're old words. And So reading out loud helps me learn new words as well.
And it's a great practice to do, because there are those times where it really helps to be able to, read your notes while you're presenting or doing things like that. And I know that reading out loud can be really scary for people. So it's nice to be able to have a safe place to practice that, and to do that in your home, where maybe it's okay if it takes you 5 minutes to read that one sentence. And so on this note of reading for an hour every day, this is the deal. I would beg and plead for my kids to read, and I would be on their case to read. And when have you done your reading today? And yet, I hadn't completed a book in that year. I hadn't read a single book myself. How can I sit there and tell them to do it when in the morning they're waking up to me sitting on my phone, scrolling through my phone, looking at technology, and me not doing it myself? And so I started that. When we said read for an hour every day, it was by example. And so then the kids started waking up to seeing us sitting quietly drinking our tea and reading a book in the morning. And then they followed suit. And so if we don't make space for it, it doesn't happen. And so getting intentional about setting some time aside to really look at a book and focus on a book is part of the process of making it happen.
And the accomplishment after that hour it helps them get, because it might not be fun at first, but then finishing that hour of reading and being like, I can read out loud. I'm a good reader. It helps them have...
builds their confidence.
Yeah, builds their confidence for being able to read their own book in their head.
That's right.
Because it can be scary to get a thick book, or any book, starting something new, it can be scary. And so having help and feel the accomplishment afterwards is nice.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And what's the third one that you have here?
The third one is follow their curiosities and interests, because kind of like the first one, let them find their own book. Let them follow their curiosities. Maybe it's not a book about fairies, and maybe it's like Clara. She almost only reads textbooks about herpetology, which, by the way, herpetology is reptiles.
Study of reptiles and amphibians.
And that's what she asks for Christmas every year, is a new textbook. And so following their interests, because now from those textbooks, she is now starting a course to become a master herpetologist.
Yeah.
So that she can do what she wants to do in the future, working to help the reptiles. So following their interests with reading can help them.
Help direct their paths. Yeah, and I know that kids may have all kinds of different interests with reading. It may be that you have a kid like Clara that gravitates toward textbooks. You may have a kid like Juliet who really liked the graphic novels as her first way of getting into reading. And the graphic novels kind of helped to make it fun enough for her. Maybe it's a blast of history that kind of shares some of your own story, like what Ellie liked. For me, I remember that one of the things that I would read a ton of is magazines, because my parents always had magazines sitting out. I was a kid in the 80s, and so there were lots of magazines, and I remember things like Reader's Digest, and it was quick and easy for me to read a quick little joke of the day. Well, those things really helped me with my reading skills, because I was reading just these little blurbs from a magazine. So, it could be a cereal box. It could be anything. What is it that your child looks at? Maybe it's Pokemon cards, and they start with reading with that, or recipes. Think beyond just a traditional book for what may draw your kid in.
Yeah, bring it into everyday life, like going to a state park.
Mm-hmm.
And there's signs that tell you all about the state park. Instead of you reading that out loud to your kid, maybe have your kid read that and let them practice.
Right. We have a kiddo that loves to lead, loves to be the one sharing the details about what we're doing. So if that's the case, then hey, let them do that. And that helps them to build their confidence in reading, and they're getting to kind of try it on in a safe environment. Yeah, so again, with this, going to a library is a great way to start. And yet I know that I've gone to the library with my kids and been like, okay, this is going to be it. They're going to sit there, they're going to dig through it all, and they're going to find that one book. No. It does not always happen like that.
Sometimes it's a little overwhelming with all those books.
Right.
And you're told, just go in there and find one.
Right. And so that's where, again, I don't just, as an unschooling mom, I don't just leave everything to them, because I also recognize we can fast pace some of it if I just open the door a little bit. And so going to the library may be easier for me to go, okay, so let's think about what's a topic of interest. What's something that you're interested in right now? And then we start to go and we narrow it down to a few books. And then I grab those books. And I remember I would get frustrated because you guys would so quickly shut a book down. And then I learned the trick of reading the back, because I could read faster and I could read the back of the book, the summary of the book. I could read it with, animation and things. And then you'd go, oh, that sounds like a cool story. And you were willing to give it a chance. And so maybe you cheated a little bit. Don't just throw your kids out there and say, figure it all out on your own. But maybe you curate a few things that you do think would be in their realm of interest. And then you read it to them to suck them in a little bit. And then they start to get sucked in, and then they're able to take it from there. And yeah, I mean, you were incentivized because I'd already kind of paved the way by reading the whole book out loud to you. And then you knew there were more to the series that then sucked you in further that you wanted to go with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a late reader, don't give up hope. Look for opportunities to simply expose them to reading in any way that you can. And that is very much done by modeling that behavior. So if you want your kid to read more, pay attention to how much you are reading as well, and make those opportunities for your whole family to do that. Get them excited about their books, get them excited about something that they're reading and curious, where, just like a movie or a show that they want to keep on watching because they've got to figure out the end of the story. Help them to get sucked into a book. And that may be a little bit of your own conversation about it.
And with the movies as well, like Harry Potter, have them read the books before they can watch the movies.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great incentive. If you have a kiddo that is very movie driven, then that's what they earn after the book. Although I will say that in that, sometimes you get a little disappointed, don't you?
The Percy Jackson movies are not like the books. The books are way better.
There you go. And then that's where you get to see that comparison, where all of a sudden they realize how much further you can go in a book than you can a movie. So yes, talk with your kids and be open with sharing your excitement about books, because I have found that my frustration, my angst about how old they are or anything else, those were not the motivators that got my kids to learn to read. My excitement about reading and me doing it myself and sharing the things I was interested in was the thing that helped pave the way and give them permission to do the same. So get excited about books with your kids. Follow their curiosity. Make sure they stick with something for far enough to give it a chance. And be okay with opening that door alongside them. It may be that that's what they needed, was simply a friend to help them along. So give some grace in the process. Keep encouraging and keep supporting and showing by example. And remember how to celebrate how the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. Namaste. Thanks for talking with me today, Ellie.
Thanks for having me.
With the rising sun already on the run, Mama says namaste. Life is a tangled mess, and you don't have to stress. Mama says namaste. 'Cause today I will stand up and be all the change that I want to see in this world. Boys and girls, you gotta have to stand up to be free. Namaste in your home. Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste. day.